Little was still not. Guys, I hope you're still with us. We do apologize for the technical difficulties. As you can see, we're still with the Nkahumas, and you've been watching these little cubs rough and tumble and play for the last little while. Remember, this is a live African safari, and you can ask us questions about what these little guys are up to by using the hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter, or use the email address questions@wildearth.tv. So no blade of grass or pile of elephant dung is safe with these little terrors around. Mom is the ideal jungle gym. And of course, if your sibling has a toy, you want to take it for yourself. Oh, tail. Oh, my own piece of elephant dung? No. My sibling's bush? Yes. Now we arrived here at about the perfect time as they finished suckling, so they decided it was playtime, and they've literally been playing incessantly since before 3 o'clock today, or 3 p.m. Central African time. Oh, got my piece of elephant dung. You almost don't need words for this. It sort of speaks for itself. Wonderful to spend time with these little guys. Oh, back on top of Mom. I'm sure Mom appreciates elephant dung in the schnoz. Now all these little games are honing their skills for when they're older. Oh, I could hear that on Mom's tummy. Dum. Look at that, aren't they just too cute? Now, John Boy is wondering, is the next junior here somewhere? It's possible. It's still very difficult to sex them at this age. We'll have to wait and see, I think, John Boy. But there's a strong possibility that there could be a male amongst these little guys. Look at that, all on top of Mom. Mom's probably the most tolerant of all these rough housing. Look at that, they are really, really loving those elephant dung balls. That is about the 4th one that's being completely dismantled. And I almost don't know what to say. It's just sit back and enjoy these little horrors. Look at that, all 3 piled on top. Let's see how long it takes Mom to get up and move. Oh, bite Mom's ear, throw elephant dung on her. Oh, what has Mom spotted? Quite often you see lions look up like that. They can sometimes spot vultures, but I didn't see what it was. What'd you see? Can't see what she's saying.
A little circle.
Ah, there we go. That's what Mom spotted. We can't get there, but there is a Battalier eagle flying over. But look at that. Just, there we go, having a break on Mom's tummy. It is absolutely gorgeous. Now there are some other, there we go. That is not a Battalier, Jean-Ray.
No, there was a Battalier as well. That's a vulture.
Yes, well done, Jean-Ray. That is a vulture. Sorry, just going to be on the game drive radio for a second. And you just come straight in behind me. So we are incredibly lucky to be able to spend the amount of time we do with these little creatures and, of course, all the other creatures out here. But there is something quite special about little lion cubs, especially when they're being as playful as these 3. All you can do is giggle. Oh, going for the killer throat hold. Now, you can see that grip for the throat is an instinctive grip. It's not something that's taught. And you can see it's getting a bit, not too serious, but this is still play, but a lot of that behavior is very, very instinctive. Look at this. Is this just special to sit here? Oh, just they haven't stopped. Mom's not going to get a 20 hours of lion cat nap today. A cat in Tampa says now she understands why moms leave their little cubs in a den. It's to get away from them for a while. As you can see, they are hard work. Oh, she looks like those weary eyes. I'm just going to close my eyes and pretend they're not there. Okay, so hasn't this been spectacular? Let's jump across to Jamie so she can say hello quickly, and we'll be right back here.
Good afternoon and welcome on our sunset safari. Really quickly, because I don't want to take you away from these cubs for too long. We are in Arathusa, and if we stop and have a quick look, I've followed the GPS coordinates to where Sindile, the leopard with the collar, last was, and here are his tracks. Still quite small, almost female size, but not quite, going in this direction. So we're going to follow up on those tracks straight away, but before Brent has to leave, let's send you back across to those adorable lion cubs. I forgot to introduce myself.
There we go. It looks like they're settling down to suckle now after all that playing. It was a bit of competition, even though mom's got more than enough nipples. Like any good sibling, you always want the one your brother or sister has. Now, we're going to have to move on shortly. We have been here for a long time, and there are quite a lot of other vehicles who would like to get here before it's dark. Duncan. Duncan, if you'd like to come down to the sighting, just let me know and I'll make space for you. It's very nice. Cubs are playing and sucking. Copy. Okay, guys. Here we go. They've calmed down a little bit. And they're going to suckle. What we're going to do is we're going to give the other guys a chance to get in here. If there's enough time before sunset, we'll try come back, but I can't promise. But let's go see what else we can find here in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve on this glorious sunset safari. Bye-bye, little ones. So, the rest of the pride trying to sleep nicely away from the, the terrors. They didn't escape completely, but definitely getting less trouble than Mom. So let's move on and see what else we can find. And so while we get out of this spot with this little line, let's jump back on board with Jamie for an update.
Alrighty, now that I've had some time to calm down to just a minor panic, good afternoon, my name is Jamie, and I have Gad on camera with me this afternoon. And yes, we are tracking Sindile with the collar. So sorry about that. For new viewers, that must have been terribly confusing. To go back a little bit, actually, let's go back 2 days, where we were searching for Shadow, and we came to Red Dam. Remember how I pulled over at the side of the road? Well, you might not have been watching, but for those that were, I pulled over at the side of the road that morning when we were tracking Shadow. And I said, that's not a female's tracks, that's a male's tracks. And then this revelation came forward from Terry Camacho yesterday about the GPS points of where Sindile was. He'd met his mom. That's why, and it frustrates me because I should have listened to my instinct. in this respect. I said it, I sort of half mentioned it that day, and then I thought, no, don't be ridiculous. You don't know that. Let's not put any conjecture forward. But his GPS point was exactly where we found those tracks, exactly where Shadow was. And that's why yesterday afternoon on the sunset safari, Shadow was pushing and pushing and pushing to get away from that area. She was moving her cub from Sindile. Now, for those of you for whom that is total gibberish, my utter apologies. I know that not all of you are totally up on the goings-on. We'll have a look at the zebra that are around us, and then I will explain a little bit. So I'm talking about leopards. There's a female leopard in this area called Shadow. She's 9, nearly 10 years old, and she has something of a sad history when it comes to raising cubs. Her last cub, Sindile, was just about a year old when last year on one of our live safaris he was found with a dog that he had caught from one of the local villages. It had obviously escaped in. Dog proved to have rabies. Sindile went into quarantine for 8 months, and he's only just been released the last 2 months. And the wonderful people that have been in charge of this whole process have been tracking his movements via a big satellite collar that he wears. Now, what is fascinating about that is for a while it went a little bit quiet. We didn't know exactly where Sindile was. It doesn't regularly give updates. But it all coincided, and now it all ties together with what was happening with Shadow and her cub yesterday. Why she was pushing, she kept pushing to the west. Why we found male tracks with her. He was looking for her again. So Shadow has since had another young cub that she now no longer wants Sindile anywhere near her. Her life is invested in her new baby at this point. And in fact, Sindile is a very real threat to her little cub. And I think that is why Shadow was so incredibly nervous yesterday. It wasn't anything to do with us, and everything to do with young Sindile being in the area. And now I look back and I want to kick myself because it was so obvious. Anyway, long story short, we've come to find Sindile. He's not at the point on the last GPS position, but as I showed you, those have to be his tracks that we found in the road. Now, unfortunately, some twit drove over them, and that some twit is me. I couldn't see the angle of the sun. I just didn't see them, so I drove over them for a little bit before I saw them, and now I can't work out where they've gone. So I'm doing loop after loop in this area in the hope that Sindile hasn't gone too far since last night. It's a difficult one. Those tracks are fresh, but a male leopard, when he wants to, and Sindile has shown it in terms of his movements, they can cover enormous amounts of ground when they want to. Okay, so that was the short version of the story. There's a slightly longer version in that I tracked Shadow and her cub this afternoon after Brent nearly found her on the sunrise safari. He came so close. Sometime in between drives, she'd crossed out into Simbambili, a property outside of our Traverse area on the sunrise safari. She then came back onto Juma in between drives, and she collected her little cub, and she's gone back. I found where her tracks have crossed with her cub onto Simbambili. So she has moved back. She's obviously made a kill somewhere there. And again, close to young Sindile. I just have a feeling he just watched me walk all around his tracks with that relaxed facial expression of his. But we're going to check really carefully. It's amazing. He's come back to his old haunts. He's now 20 months old. He must... No, that can't be true. He must be even older than that, actually. He must be at least 21 months old at this point. And he's basically reached the age where he would be independent anyway, and he's been looking after himself remarkably well in the time that he has been, since he's been released back into the wild. And I mean, this situation is not without precedent, but almost. It really is the most fascinating scenario, and we were lucky enough to be witness to what might not have been the first encounter with Sindile that Shadow had, but it was certainly a very dramatic one. Oh, I don't believe it. This is exactly where we had Shadow yesterday. He must have come up from here. Oh, but yes, we were witness to a very dramatic scene where Shadow was calling her youngest cub, and he kept responding, and every time he responded, she would behave aggressively towards him and push him and scratch him and growl at him, because of course her instinct is telling her to get rid of him, and his instinct is telling him that he's still a little mommy's boy and that he wants to still be around her. A fascinating situation that we've been very privileged to witness. And Sindile has won over the hearts and minds of many, many people due to the fact that he has just had such a rough start at such a young age. He's an incredible little leopard, except he's not so little anymore. I've only seen him once since he was released back into the Sabi sand. It's because he's been running like a normal dispersal male does. Right, so we've been driving basically from when we started talking to you. When we started talking to you, we were at his tracks. Where we are now is where I found Shadow. I found Shadow basically just by this leadwood tree at the start of the sunset safari yesterday. Not quite, but essentially. Oh, so many things make so much more sense. I'm just checking the big jackal breeze around here. Come on, Sindile. There are lots and lots of people who would very much like to see you. Perhaps it's time to put our previous knowledge of Sindile's old haunts to use. Let's go check the places where he used to hide. And a really big hello to Liam, who is 7 years old and watching with his Auntie Joyce. Now, Liam, I think you don't believe your Auntie Joyce because she told you that leopard pee smells like buttered popcorn. And guess what, Liam? It is absolutely true. To almost everybody in the world who drives past fresh leopard pee, it smells like popcorn. Oh, isn't that amazing? At least it doesn't smell horrible. Apparently, it smells like freshly buttered popcorn to everybody else except me. I don't know, I can't smell it, but my sense of smell is not very good. But yes, Liam, your aunt is absolutely right. Auntie Joyce is right. Leopard pee smells like buttered popcorn. So whenever you drive past a tree that a leopard has peed on, or when you're driving in an area and you smell buttered popcorn, then you know that that leopard is somewhere close. I wish I could smell buttered popcorn now, Liam, because then it would mean that the leopard that I'm trying to find you is somewhere close to us. I really, really do. Because I know he's here somewhere. Knowing him, just lying up in the shade, watching me drive past, time after time after time. Obviously you can see I'm going back on myself now. I would really, really love to be able to find Sindile for you. And for me, I would love to see him once again. Be interesting, the last time I walked Sindile was many, many months ago, and he followed me back to the car on foot. I had been out tracking him, and he decided it would be a really fun game to stalk me back to the vehicle. At the time, he was only about 11 months or so old, so it wasn't very scary at all. It was just a little boy leopard playing with me. I'm not sure how I would feel about it now. Not terribly comfortable, I have to tell you. At now nearly 2 years old, he's not quite so little anymore, and he's certainly got a bit more of an intimidation factor. Although he's still the same old handsome Sindile, just with a slightly more adult face. Okay, back again we go. Sorry, zebra, watching me with confusion. There we go. Our zebra watching us once more. Wondering why on earth we are going backwards and forwards. Of course, our wild zebra are more than capable of defending themselves and running away from predators. But Aaron, you were wondering about, and thank you by the way, I did have a lovely weekend. You were wondering about the measures that the surrounding areas take in terms of avoiding predators. I'm not entirely sure if you are talking about the... If you're talking about the livestock or the local villages. So Aaron, who is watching all the way in Florida, well, essentially, the place that we're in, the reserve that we're in, we're still in a fenced-off area. But they can't really, no fence in the world stops hyenas or leopards, or apparently domestic dogs at time, although that was a serious exception to a general rule. And even every now and again the lions get out. In terms of measures that the local people take, there's actually not that many in the surrounding areas. There's a couple of superstitions, a couple of trees that they will put over their roofs to help to stave off any wild animals. But other than that, the cattle are mainly kept sort of corralled around the villages themselves. In this area, we don't have a major problem with predator and people interaction. But there are places in the world where there is a major problem with it, and there are a lot of very clever people trying to look at solutions as a way of reducing that interaction between predator and people, whether it's through the attacking people's livestock or attacking people themselves. One of the things is to, in some cases they've introduced alpacas or llamas to herds of sheep. That's for the smaller predators. Obviously that's not going to work to deter a lion, but apparently they work as really good sheepdogs when it comes to things like caracal and jackal attacking sheep. So that's one of the interesting ways in which they have started preventing it. There's also a big drive towards government repaying the villagers after any livestock that's been lost, and that in turn prevents the villagers from wanting to take extreme measures and kill the animals concerned. But for the most part, as soon as a wild animal is seen, in our area in South Africa certainly, the local vets and the state authorities are called in, and they will come and return it to wherever it happened to come from. I'm going to do one more squiz at where I last saw Sindile's tracks. While I do that, let's go back to Brent and find out what his plans are now that he's left those wonderful lion cubs.
So we had tracks of a male leopard on the Sunrise Safari, but we got sidetracked by the impala alarm calls and the proximity of shadow. So we're going to go back into that area and see if we get any luck there. Now, they were heading north, but I think they could have come back across the road over a hard patch, and we were live while we were following them, so it's a possibility. I might have missed where he might have made a little sly turn. And I'm hoping it's Mr. Gajima, the ghost from the north. My favorite adult male leopard around on Juma at the moment. I think my favorite male leopard on Cheese of Lands is going to have to be Mr. Q. He's such an incredible leopard to photograph. Remember, if you would like to ask a question, you're more than welcome to. Hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter, or use the email address questions@wildearth.tv. Hi, Sean. Now, Sean's asking a little bit about our life out here in the bush. And he says, do we take turns driving into town to get everyday things and food, or is it just one person's job? I think if it was one person's job, there'd be none of us left here. It's literally the bane of our lives as a town trip, but we don't even get food. Our food is delivered out here to us 1 week. But once a week, we try only send one town trip a week, and that's to get fuel for the vehicles and tech stuff, camera stuff, personal stuff. And whoever's turn it is generally gets a list of things for everyone. But it is, I'd say it's pretty well spread. It depends on which department is heaviest at the time, so which department has the most people in it. So at the moment, the department with the most staff would be the final control in general. So they would be the ones who would generally draw the short straw for the town trips. But because it's about, well, now with the road states at the moment, about an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half from here to town. So if you finish drive at 9:30, have breakfast and get everyone's lists 10:30, you're in town by 12:30. By the time you manage to collect everything, it's very unlikely that you'll be back in time for the sunset safari. So in those circumstances, like for the moment, I think cam ops and presenters, at the moment we are lighter than we normally are. So we will not be making town trips at the moment. And of course, we are lucky enough that Steph and his family live in Hoedspruit. So Steph heads out most weekends. So if there's anything desperate on a Monday or Tuesday morning, Steph can always grab it and bring it back. Rebecca in final control says she loves going to town. She's more than happy to do the next one. Now, Rebecca in final control, I think, is our newest staff member. That might be why she still has a love of the town trip. And I don't think she's had to go, I'm not going to say the company name, but the big hardware store. She hasn't had to do too many hardware store trips where you order steel 7 hours in advance, ask for it to be cut to exactly 2 meters in length. You arrive the day after you've ordered it and your steel is still not cut. So you say, listen, give me the angle grinder, I'll cut the steel. No, you're not allowed to. Come back in an hour. You come back in an hour, your steel is still in the exact same place. Come back in 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes your steel hasn't moved. So you may or may not have to start getting a little bit sarky before things get done. But that is the nature of the low fault, which is sometimes actually quite commonly known in South Africa as the slow fault. Everyone down here is not in the big rush that the city dwellers are in. So not quite as stressed about everything happening right now. Which for some of us who have less patience than others, it's a little bit trying. Now, apparently Rebecca says she only goes to town for the ice cream. Rebecca. Now, Rebecca will know that. Rebecca does certain things, and quite often I'll just look at her across the table and shake that. Yes, those are the leopard tracks, John. John suddenly leans over. It's the same male leopard tracks I was following this morning. I lost them just over this ridge, although there has been a lot of vehicle traffic on here. So I might have to do a bit of... And there's been some big tractors as well. So remember where I last had those tracks. So while we follow these tracks, let's see how Jamie's tracking's been going.
Brent and I both hot on the trail of trying to find you each a different leopard. Let us see how our afternoon goes in that respect. I'm not doing so well. I went back to his last tracks, I can't find anything. I've come back, taken a different route. I'm going to do a big loop, and then I'm going to just follow my instinct. My instinct says to me he's going to be hiding in the drainage line around Red Dam. And the only reason I say that is because that's where we used to find him when he was a cub. So it doesn't really gel with any particular logic other than just he might be searching for somewhere that's a comfort place, familiar to him. Particularly since it must be very scary for him in this area. His potential father, Tingana, is dominant in this region, along with a very large male called the Anderson male. And both of them, you don't really know how they would react to him being back in this area. He's almost an adult. He's almost at the point where he would be qualified as an adult. And male leopards generally aren't tolerant of males in their territory. And young males of Sindile's age and right up until about 3.5, 4, even up to 5, spend most of their lives ducking and diving until they are big enough and strong enough to compete for a territory of their own. But then, I suppose my logic doesn't really make sense that he'd be looking for comfort, except that it does, because he's still in this area. I also still feel as though I would not be at all surprised if he didn't try once again to reconnect with Mom. And I'm sure once again was met with fierce resistance, almost bordering on flat-out aggression, which I think must be confusing him terribly. He can't understand, and it is amazing how after 8 months he still has that bond and that connection with her, even if she doesn't quite feel the same about him. And it would be so wonderful if we could find him. And Shamel thinking along similar lines to the ones that I am. And as always, good afternoon, Shamel, and welcome to our Sunset Safari. It is lovely to have you on board. Shamel, like myself, thinking that perhaps Sindile might be sticking to old habits, knowing him, perhaps perched upon a termite mound, looking beautiful, and just waiting to be the star of the afternoon. Shamel, I would not be at all surprised if that were the case. And because you've said that, and because it coincided exactly with the time I spotted a strange shape on the termite mound, I'm now desperately trying to see if it's a leopard, but it's straight into the sun. And knowing me, rather than knowing Sindile, it's probably another leopard-shaped termite mound. I'm very, very good at spotting them. I don't think that's a leopard, except that it feels like it's moved. Ah, sun, must you be in my face that way? Thank you. I think, honestly, Gert, I think it's a termite mound-shaped leopard. It's not the top part. It's on this side of it. It's on the southern side. There. If I go forward, shall we try? Am I going to be embarrassed? Let me go forward a little bit. Ooh. Let me go forward, the other forward, not the backward. Oh, it's just there. That shape looks like it could be a leopard head. And the go-away birds are calling. It's just a termite mound, isn't it? Yep. And a leaf. A termite mound and a leaf. Fantastic. We're off to a wonderful start. It was worth checking, I suppose. It would have been a very good spot if it had been a leopard. It's not a leopard, though. It is a termite mound that is shaped like a leopard. That's happened to me so many times in my guiding career, I am no longer embarrassed by it. When you first start out, you feel a sense of crippling disappointment and embarrassment when you've stopped your guests and you've got them all looking through binoculars, only to realize that it's not what you thought it was. you get to the point where it becomes sort of par for the course. And with Gert's wonderful camera, it does make checking it out a lot easier. Alright, he hasn't come this way. I feel relatively certain about that because I think that he would have walked on this road. The reason I say that is because, as with all predators, our lovely leopards love to walk on roads. That's because it's easier, it's quieter, they don't have to worry about ducking and diving underneath various leaves. So whilst they will naturally walk off the road and through the bush, they do often make their way onto our man-made roads because it is just easier. And so I think time has come to put my instincts to the test and go and see if we can't find him around Red Dam. There's just that funny feeling. And a very big hello to Jimelin in Oklahoma on the subject of our lovely Sindile. Jimelin, we don't know exactly where Sindile was released. We know that it was on the property known as Gowrie, but that is the massive northern section, most of the northern section of the Sabi Sand. So I don't know exactly where he's released. I imagine he was released close to where he was caught, which was around Arathusa, so around the boundary Arathusa-Djuma area, but I'm not 100% sure of that. I don't necessarily think it was the case, because I think that they were looking for somewhere without, in his initial stages of his release, without any male leopards, big male leopards, that were in the vicinity. But of course it's impossible for them to know that with absolute certainty. And Jimelin, in terms of how far he's traveled, well, luckily we've had the wonderful Harry Camacho keeping us up to date on his movements, and he has moved a huge amount. He's gone into the Kruger National Park, which is all the way to the east of us. He's gone all the way south of us into Mala Mala. He spent quite a bit of time hanging around his natal range, the place that he was familiar with, as is to be expected. But he didn't stick around all the time. He's moved, he's explored, he's gone onto Elephant Plains, which is just to the west of our boundary on Arathusa. He's gone right up into the Manuleti before, and he has spent a bit of time on Djuma as well. Now he's doing what a normal, actually what is, I feel, relatively normal for a leopard of his age. Just establishing himself, trying to find where he feels comfortable, and essentially scooting around until he finds a place, a suitable vacuum, where he doesn't feel too much of a threat from other males. And I mean, of course, Harry has been doing a lot of comparisons with the normal male leopard dispersal pattern, and it'll be fascinating to hear what conclusion he draws from this whole scenario. And he's been very, very good at updating all of us on Sindile's movements. But he's moved a lot, but that was to be expected. And in a way, we should be glad that he hasn't stuck around too much around Shadow's cub. I don't know, we really don't know that he would necessarily be a threat to that bull cub. He may, often leopard siblings meet up and they don't behave aggressively towards each other, but this is such an unusual scenario that we just were never 100% certain that it was going to be that way. Okay. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go drive through the drainage lines where we used to find Sindile. I don't have any... oh, hold on. Somebody is trying to call me. Standing by. Negative. No, I didn't. Okay, copy. Very interesting. Are they not her going south to fetch the cub? Okay, copy that, thank you. I'm going to follow up in that area. There's Medoro and Konzo as well. Copy, thanks. Alrighty. I'm just thinking, bear with me a moment. I'm gathering thoughts, trying to solve a puzzle here. But basically, every time we go out into the bush and we go tracking and we try and build up a story of what's happened with our characters, it's kind of like building a jigsaw puzzle. But you might have an idea of the overall picture, but you've lost the box or the cover, and you don't have any of the side pieces or the corners. Does that make any sense? That's sort of what our day-to-day thinking process is like. Cedric has just picked up on tracks going south. I'm very confused because I felt that she killed something, Shadow that is, killed something on Simbambili and went to fetch her cub and then went back along to Simbambili again. But Cedric says he's got very fresh tracks on Parallel Road going south, which is the opposite direction. But it would make sense if she was going that way and coming back. But he's also got male tracks. So what on earth is going on? I tell you what, well, let's go contemplate it. We'll go contemplate it because I'll listen to my instincts just because I feel I should. Let's go through that drainage line and then we shall see. Because we should have signal down there in Rusty. And then we shall see whether or not he's anywhere there. I think he's been following her around. I don't think she's following him. I think that he's following her. Ooh, very, very interesting point from Robin. Wow, Robin. That is a really good point. How do I feel, and I mean, of course we'll never know, how do I feel things would have played out if Sindile had been female? Sorry, my game drive comms were a little bit loud over there. Sure, Robin, I'm not sure. I think that because female cubs they show a greater degree of independence than the males do, I think that perhaps she would have been less attached to Shadow or to returning to Shadow. They become independent sooner. They don't regularly go back to their mothers after they've gained independence in the same way males do. But I don't know. Robin, I'm going to think about your question and come back to it. In the meantime, Brent has got some very large pachyderms.
So we are on our way back to the lions, and while we were there, this little herd of elephants just charged down to have a drink. Could we just famba up the Shkova? Famba up that Shkova. And your Bugadangara just round the corner. Sorry about that, just giving some directions to the lions. And we're going to head back there shortly as well. Well, Cindy from North Carolina, look at that hooded vulture. Just swooped in next to the eddies. Or it looks like the one eddy's going to chase it. Just because it can. Sorry, so Cindy from North Carolina was hoping for eddies. Well, there we go, Cindy. Hopefully they don't chase the lions. Well, let's get a little bit closer to the eddies. Looks like they're going to spray some mud. Bye. We're just going to pop down next to the elephants before we head back to the lions. And I'm sure Cindy is very happy about the fact we've got some beautiful elephants. And the lions actually look like they're watching the ellies. They're like, oh, please don't come this way. We're so comfortable here in the cool sand. I'm just going to show you where the lions are quickly. And so they're the lions, watching the ellies intently. Or the little ones are, at least. Just going to get onto the other side of that ellie. Just pointing for the next vehicle to where the lions are. And some hooded vultures around as well. Now, hooded vultures like that one, oh, it's about to have a drink. Now, here we go. We're going to focus on the eddies. We'll look at the hooded vulture just now. Oh, sorry, Jean, there's an awkward angle for you. And so you can see how relaxed these eddies are. They're kicking up the mud. Oh, look at the little one's going to have such a ball playing in the mud. Oh, doesn't that look fun? Now I'm sure they can smell. Oh, is this half trunk? It is too. There we go. That female with the short trunk and her little family group. Oh, loving the mud. Oh, listen to that. Elephants having a chat. And of course, a lot of their chats are far too low for us to see. Oh, really getting stuck in now. You can hear her kicking it, digging down to get into the... Oh, isn't that nice? Ooh. Putting her belly on the mud, probably nice and cool. Now, of course, she's not as able as the other eddies to spray mud with her trunk. You'll probably find that's why she lies... Oh, look at that! I mean, she's nearly got her whole head under. As you can see, she's trying to flick mud. She's just not as adept because she's missing that bottom part of her trunk. Well, it looks like the baby's copping her between the legs there, putting its head right down into the mud. Of course, at that age, they're not as able to spray mud yet either. And that's just because they don't have control of their trunks. It's definitely a baby day for Jeandre and I. Oh, that's... Oh, down and down and down and down. Look at the big one. She's sat down, just rolling around trying to get up now. But look at that. She's lying right down on her side, scratching her head. Little one's going to come. Oh, look at that. Isn't that incredible? Now, it almost looks like pure enjoyment. I think if you had to describe how that elephant's feeling while rolling around in the mud like that is pure ecstasy. Yes, you look so happy. Tail swinging. Oh. Oh, isn't that just too sweet? So cute. Oh, look at that. Have a snooze. And of course, as much fun as it looks like she's having, there are some valuable side effects. One is that mud will cake any little parasites, ticks, and things, and once it dries, it'll harden and they'll fall off. But I think more so, it just looks like pure enjoyment, pure fun. What are you doing, you little horror? I don't think there's much more you can say about that little bit of behavior. It was priceless. Well, let's leave those Ellies and let's go see what the other bundles of cuteness are up to. Oh, actually, let's just have one last look. Playtime over, time for a drink. There we go. Chris Ragg says the half-trunk Ellie is giving a sunscreen application lesson. Yes, mud could definitely be used as sunscreen. I think it's got a few more therapeutic effects for elephants. I think it just feels nice. Okay, Eddies. And you see old Bob the Bachelor, the hippo behind him there. Just reverse a little bit. And looks like they're just going to have a drink. So while we make our way towards those wonderful lions, let's see what Jamie's got on Arethusa.
Let's go to the pirate plate.
Oh, we've got a hippopotamus, but sorry, just hold on. Things have changed. I'm trying to work out why the turtle doves have been fluttering about, and it's because a brown-headed parrot has been chasing them. And I'm sorry, that happened right as Brent sent you across to them. So I just had to have a look at that because it was marvelous. I couldn't work out why the Cape turtle doves were so upset until I realized that they were being chased by a parrot, which I have never ever seen before. In fact, I had no idea that it happened. And I think he might even be going in to do it again. He's fluttering down to have a drink. Okay, maybe he's made peace with them. I think he's made peace. It was fascinating. He circled around here about 3 times, chasing them away. Oh, everybody's gone again. Mass panic. Hold on, Gert. Jeep. Oh, this is an indigenous parrot, by the way. It's not something that has been introduced. We have a couple of different species of parrots in South Africa. The brown-headed is probably the only one that you're going to see on our live safaris for now. We do also get the Mayers and the grey-headed parrot. The grey-headed parrot, a little bit very, very similar to the brown-headed parrot, except its head is grey and not brown. as its name possibly suggests. And then the mayor's parrot, a little bit more brightly colored, but you find them in the more arid areas, in the western areas of South Africa. All right, well, our brown-headed parrot has ceased his Cape turtle dove chasing antics for now. That was really fascinating, though, so we can actually probably think about talking about the fact that Red Dam has a hippo in it over the last few days. It's the first time I've ever seen this. I saw him for the first time a couple of days ago, but other than that, it's the first time I've ever seen a hippopotamus in Red Dam. Oh, sorry, that's my foot on the brake. Over to Brent, who's got lions.
The elephants changed their mind, and we've just got behind the lions, and the Ellies haven't spotted them. I'm sure they might be able to smell them. And whether the elephants decide to come chase the lions, well, it could be quite interesting. They might just move off, but all the lions' suddenly ears were up. They're trying not to move too much. Now, I have seen lion cubs chased by elephants before. It is one of the funniest things I've seen out in the bush, because even a small elephant is quite big for a lion. So it looked like they were actually going to go the opposite direction. And then they actually popped up right next to us. Oh, we can hear them. The cubs are enthralled. They cannot take their eyes off the elephants. Look at that. So, there the Ellies. There's Half Trunk. Now, even though she's moved away now, the wind might change. Oh, or a lion might sneeze. No, it looks like they're going to move away from the lions. Shame. The cubs absolutely nearly jumped out of their skins when the other lioness sneezed. They were so intently watching the elephants that they just got a big, big fright when the other lioness sneezed. Now, here's a hard-working mom. And the Ellies are going to move off. Now you see how the cubs are a little bit closer to mom now. Not so adventurous. Still watching the Ellies. The Ellies have stopped up there and are having a dust bath. You just hear their low rumbles coming through. If there's two, but as soon as you get close, I'll make space for you. Copy, just let us know when you get to the turn off to Buffelshoek Dam. Look at that. All the excitement of having elephants close by is over. It's time for a little snooze on a log. Now, those cubs are not being, well, they are being very cute, but not being as active. Just want to have a look. Oh, big yawn there. Up to my right in the tree next to us. There we go. Up here, we've got 3 hooded vultures. We did see one drinking not too long ago, and what they are doing here is they might have seen the lions, thought there's a kill, but being the smallest of the vulture species and with the weakest beak, and you can see there it's not a very prominent beak. Now, what they'll do is when the lions move on, they'll come down and eat their dung. So there's obviously quite a lot of congealed blood and other things in there. So they will eat their dung once the lions move off. I actually saw them on the ground as we drove in, so I think they might have already started eating their dung. But I'm sure there'll be lots of dung for them. Now, I heard from Aubrey that he found where these lions had actually killed a buffalo, and that's why all the fat bellies are there. Oh, Chandra, you've got dust on your lens. No, I'm joking. Chandra is a perfectionist, so we do like to tease him from time to time. I can hear a very cool little bird. I'll wait for it to get a bit closer, but it's right in the sun. And up to the right of that little bush. I don't know if you see that little movement there, Chandra. There, oh, he's right at the back corner. Now, let's see who you can recognize. Oh, I think that might be a bit difficult. That is even a tough one for the serious birders out there. Or maybe you recognize the call. No, he's out. He's popped out into the open. Sorry, John Ray, to do this to you. He's just moved out into the open now. Oh, and he flew away. Yeah, sorry. It was a little crombeck. But now the cubs have started watching John Ray while he was moving around trying to have a look at the little crombeck in the bush next to us. And it looks like it's playtime round 2 about to start. Copy F, Herbie is making space for you, so just make your way straight in. It's an incredible thing about little animals. They are a lot more active than adult versions. There we go. Herbie is being stalked as he leaves. Now, could that possibly be a little boy just based on his behavior? Is this junior version 2? Oh. And Herbie's leaving. You can just see Herbie's car disappear there. And he's moved away from the others to watch the car. He's still going to go watch. Now, the funniest thing, and lions in particular, lion cubs in particular, have a fascination with car wheels. Oh, we're going to stalk sibling. Is it sibling stalk time? Are we going to charge down the hill at sibling, who is lying in ambush at the bottom? Oh, look at those shoulders. Stalk mode is happening. No, don't get distracted. Oh, there we go. Boom, pounce. Take them to the ground. So you see a lot of that hunting behavior is instinctive. They know it from tiny, tiny creatures. And it's not something that needs to be taught. Arr, arr. So those birds we showed you earlier are vultures. So the hooded vulture in particular is 99.99% a scavenger. And Marianne in Arkansas was worried that they might be big enough to swoop down and grab a cub. Oh, they might be big enough. I don't think they'd be strong enough to lift a cub, and they'd get mom attached to them very quickly. So I think they are 100% safe from the hooded vultures. Their feces, however, isn't, and which is what these vultures are waiting for, is the lion feces. Copy, thanks, Abby. Oh, like elephant scream in the distance. Oh, let's go annoy an aunt. Oh no, we're going to have a rest. Two are continuing the tussle. See, there we go, the instinctive throat grip. Oh dear. Oh. We've got a downwind of lions that have decomposing buffalo in their bellies. And what comes out the other end, oof, is quite vile. There we go. A car comes and watch. Oh no, too busy to look at the spinning tires. Now, that's a lion cub's favorite thing. They can't help it. You often will see their heads go round and round and round as they watch the tires go by. Ow! Listen to the noises they're making. Of course, now they stop making those noises, because it is some of the cutest noises you'll ever hear, so I'm just going to keep quiet for a while. Poor tired mom. I just want to sleep, guys. I need my 20 hours a day. Oh, Mom, here they come. Oh. Now, Curious One says, after watching these cubs play, she now understands why they have such tattered ears. And we thought it was the biting flies. Well, they normally don't rip each other's ears too much. A lot of the scarring on the back of the lion's ear, and not on the edges, is still from the biting flies. And, oh no, decided that, oh, I'm thirsty after all. Now, of course, if one has a drink, there's always another who believes it's just as deserving. Let me just go back a tiny bit so we can see a bit more. So I just want to get us into a spot where we can see the suckling. I'm not sure how long it's going to last for. There's playtime might take over again. Oh, itchy chin. There we go. See how their ears are flat, as if they were fighting over a kill. Just because there's another little lion cub near them. Oh, now there's going to be pandemonium. See, ears flat, that's a sign of aggression. Oh, biting mom. Mom's trying to make space for all three of them. Soft growling from them. Look at that. My ears are still flat, as if they were competing around a kill. So Justin's wondering, at what age are we going to start being able to tell the difference between the girls and the boys? Now, probably at about 2 to 3 months, males should start getting a bit bigger. Oh dear, Jean-André, we're in danger here. And it's not from the lions. It's from bombs from above. Grey go-away birds in the Tambuti tree. Now, grey go-away birds have a particularly active digestive system, and we are sitting right underneath their flight path towards the dam. So, fortunately, it seems to be more on Jean-André's side, but they're feeding over there. There was one that took off that was feeding literally just above us. There they are. And when I say they have a very active digestive system, I'm not lying. So in Johannesburg, there's a lot of exotic fruit trees and other exotic trees, and people park their cars underneath them, and the grey go-away birds feces actually starts eating the paint of the cars. So I'd rather it fall on Jean-André than me, of course. And Jean-André agrees. He will help with his hair gel. Let's look at the cubs. They're still suckling. Hi, Valerie. Valerie's in Pennsylvania. Now, Valerie would like to know if the lions started roaring. Do I think the cubs would try and join in? I'd say not yet, Valerie. I think they're still a bit too young. Maybe in a month or 2 or 3, actually. Thirsty little guys. It's all that playing. And they got buffalo meat and milk. Little gluttons. And of course, all lions given the opportunity to will be gluttons. It's the lion way to gorge oneself as much as one can when it is available. Even for these little guys, you remember, a female might leave them in a thicket, in a den site for a while, And so they'll eat or drink as much as they possibly can while they do have the opportunity. It starts getting funnier and funnier as they get older, as their teeth get sharper, and you can see the obvious discomfort it causes the females. Little ears twitching while suckling. Very, very peaceful scene here, just to the east of Buffelshoek Dam and the drainage line of the Nkuhuma cub and mom. They might move a bit tonight, maybe not too far with those full bellies. So we're going to sit here. I don't think too much more is going to happen, and we're going to have to leave quite soon as the sun is starting to set. So while we do that, let's go back to Jamie.
Well, what an extraordinary moment, or series of moments, spent with those cubs. I have to confess to being somewhat jealous. And by somewhat, I mean really jealous, because my leopard tracking is not going very well at all. These are the tracks of shadow in the road that led up towards Simbambili. And I'll hop out for a moment and just show you them. They're fresh. They have to be fresh, because otherwise on Triple M Road we would never have seen them. And my senses are still, my instinct is still telling me that it is a good idea to just keep checking Red Dam. So, her paw prints coming along in this direction, straight north to Simbambili. Herbert said he saw little cub tracks with her. I can't find them here, but that's probably because they've been driven over in the interim. Now, these are her feet here, her front foot with its 4 toes and its back pad, and then her back foot with its 4 toes and its back pad. Now, for new people to tracking, a big cat has 3 lobes at the back of its foot. A dog or a hyena has 2 lobes. But there's no mistaking a leopard track. Once you see them regularly, they're just such perfectly neat paw marks. And for a print that is basically the size of my palm, that tells us immediately that it is a female. Now, I was convinced that I saw male tracks here this afternoon. I have checked everywhere. I've been round Red Dam several times. I've been into the drainage system that Sindile used to enjoy so much. I've been backwards, forwards, round and about. And it's just a matter of where I don't know where he's gone. My only other guess, because Cedric did find tracks on the road where there were female tracks, my only other guess is that he's followed her into Simbambili. Or I've just missed something somewhere, but I'm hoping not. I have a funny feeling that could well be the case, that he may be following Shadow around now that she's in the area. And just by the way, if you're wondering about the bright blue hat, it's because I've had a serious gremlin that I didn't realize that gremlins were so attached to hats. But this morning I lost my beanie, and this afternoon I've lost my cap. I have no other alternative but to blame the gremlins of the area for the loss of them. We're going to take one more trip. Oh, we're actually going straight off the road there. We're going to take one more trip to Red Dam, because I just have a funny feeling about the place. Now, we're going to go back there one last time. There were some Franklin alarm calling in that area, and I couldn't figure out what it was they were calling at. But we're going to take one more trip there and just see if we can't figure out where this little thing has gone. I say little thing because I've just found her cub's tracks, and they're so clearly cubs. I'll show you in terms of size. Okay, we'll do this relatively quickly. The tracks are just off the side of the road here. They are much, much smaller. And I'll show you just in terms of my hand in comparison, because we saw the size of Shadow's tracks. Now to show you the size of the cub tracks, let's just do a very quick demonstration. They are about half the size of my palm when compared. She's got big, quite spread out toes, but it is thick sand. But they are about half the size of Mommy's tracks. I don't want to take you away from the cubs for too long since it is getting dark. I'm going to send you back across to Brent for now, and I'll catch up with you very shortly.
As you can see, they haven't moved much. Still lying in that little bundle of cuteness. We're going to have one last look before we close the sighting, as it's getting dark. And we don't view cubs this young with spotlights after dark. So we will be leaving shortly. And they're looking very contented as they suckle away. And the rest of the cats are completely flat, so I think we're going to head off and go see what else Juma has to offer this evening. When you pelele just vala mfo. When you pelele just vala.
Yeah, I'll do some banana also.
Okay. Enjoy, guys. Okay, so there we go. Wonderful lions. Ephraim's just going to move into the spot where we are, so his guests can have a quick look, and then he's going to leave and close. Oh, we got some impala coming down for a drink. I wonder if they know there's lions just around the corner. Let's try and see if we can get a nice view of them. I'm just trying to think. Sorry, Jean-Andre. It looks a bit bumpy to get the sunset in the impala. I was just trying to get there quickly and I realized I'd probably lose you. Say when? No, we're not. And I'll just try that quickly while they're on the wall. Oh, there we go. Just trying to get you the best light. Now, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Having a little evening drink. You can see they can probably smell that the lions are around, so they're going to be a bit jumpy. No more than a couple of, well, maybe 200, no, not even 200 meters. The lions are sleeping, but they're quite full. Oh, about to come down. can see those game paths already starting to be worn in the new dam wall. So, we're going to see what else we can find. And hopefully there's lots around the corner. While we do that, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
I'm really hoping that there's a leopard around the corner. I'm just stopping for one moment to listen to the testiculars calling over here. Now chances are we won't be able to see them, but you can hear that they're really very cross. Now testiculars is a tiny little subtly coloured bird, beautifully camouflaged in dry grass and dry leaves. But they do alarm call at leopards. Even though the leopards are not a threat to them, it is worth every now and again listening to whether or not they are alarm calling and just check to see what they might be upset about. I don't see anything in here. We're very close to Red Dam, so we'll pay one last visit to what used to be Sindile's favourite spot. And then I think we shall move on from our search for Sindile. There's definitely no sign of him. That being said, there were tracks of a male going south in this direction. I just don't know if they were him or not. They weren't very clear on the very sandy soil. But it could be that a leopard is what's got those testiculars so angry, although I think we'd see him from this side of the dam. One last check, and then we will give it up for the evening. Interesting little duo that we've got here. That elephant was quite the surprise. He's having a wonderful time, and I'm quite impressed at the fact that the hippo is so close to this particular elephant. It even looks as though this elephant has been having a marvelous time, almost possibly even having a bit of a swim in the dam with the hippo. He is soaking all the way, completely covered in water and mud. That's very interesting. You usually find that hippo and elephant don't necessarily like to share the same spaces, and the hippos often move off in a different direction, as far away as they can possibly get. But perhaps that's the only part of the Red Dam that he feels is deep enough for him. Let's just go forward a little bit. No, big boy, you're very thirsty. Awesome. Not the leopard we were expecting to see, or hoping to see, but a lovely sighting nevertheless, as he's found himself in a really... I wonder how he got there. He must have waded through the water to get to that spot, because it's a very steep, rocky wall behind him. I would have loved to have been here as this elephant arrived, just to see what that hippo's response would have been. He's stretching out his trunk to get away from the water that he's muddied, where he's walked. Making noises a little bit like when you finish a drink and you are sort of sucking it through a straw. And those bubbling sounds right at the end. Look how happy he looks. A thoroughly contented elephant. very thirsty. I wonder if he's walked a very long way. The fact that even now, in the wintry evening, he still wanted to come and have a bit of a swim, or at least a cooling splashdown, suggests to me that he was very warm when he arrived. And perhaps he's been on quite a long journey in order to get here. How amazing are those sounds? And then sucking up the drips from the bottom, from his bottom lip. Just sounds so incredible. All the while being closely watched by his friend the hippo. Or not so much friend as unfortunate companion. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. He's making such amazing sounds. Sorry, that's my fault. I'm just taking my foot off the brake. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. Amazing sound effects for our late winter's evening. And he has been such a lovely surprise. Not so much for our friend the hippo. Let's see which way he's going to go in terms of when he gets out of here. Now he has covered himself in mud and water, which serves as a nice protection from the hot African sun, and also catches all of the parasites that might have settled on his skin. And Carolyn in Chicago, welcome to the Sunset Safari. In answer to your question, elephants do not get sunburned. Their skin is phenomenally tough, although they do like to protect it. It does obviously feel uncomfortable if the sun is shining on it for a long time, so they do like to protect it with a coating of mud. And as I said, that will also help to get rid of the parasites. Hippos, on the other hand, absolutely do get sunburned. And they get sunburned even worse than human beings do. So a hippo secretes what is known as blood sweat. It's actually not blood sweat. Originally it was thought that hippos bleed through their skin. It's now we understand that it is a mucus-like substance, a sweaty-like substance, that contains a sunblock in it, as well as phenomenal antibiotic and antiviral effects. And it's actually something that engineers, or sort of biological engineers, are looking at. Look at his, every now and again, glancing at the elephant. They're actually trying to copy in terms of making sunblock, which is a fascinating thing. So yes, hippos do get very sunburnt, which is why they have to seek refuge in the water during the hot summer and hot winter days. Their skin is even more sensitive than ours is, which is why watching this drought, I think, is going to become more and more difficult to bear, at least in terms of seeing what happens to our poor hippo in this area. Oh, trunks full and trunks full of water. This elephant is just having the best drink of his life. Oh, more, more, more. He is not a genteel and quiet elephant. He's making a great deal of noise. Look at him, he's covered in mud and water, and he's been digging with his tusks as well. You can see how there's that fresh coat of mud on the top of them. He's been using those to dig through the mud. I wish we could have arrived and see him have a swim at this dam. It would have been really special, because I think he did actually have a swim. Oh, he's coming to say hello. Oh boy. Are we going to be full of nonsense? Let's not be full of nonsense. You've just had such a wonderful bath. He's going to see what he decides to do. He's giving us... Oh, he's found where Red Dam is being pumped from. Isn't that lovely, boy? Fresh water for you. See the crossed ankles, the indecision of his trunk. He's looking for a way to dig the fresh water pipe out. Investigating. Now he's giving us a bit of a head shake. He's thinking about coming to intimidate us. That's what's in his mind. See that trunk up? Let's not do this, boy. Let's not. I don't want to. Yes, have a dust bath now. You've had your bath, now have a dust bath. Let's not be full of nonsense. And that means going round the back as well. See the indecision? Twisting of the trunk. Backwards and forwards motion of the feet. He's also scratching his ankle. Hey, big boy. Oh, that was very impressive. A very impressive display of flexibility there. Didn't look like a very comfortable approach to things. Oh. He actually smells a bit musty. Okay. So we've got an Ellie bull that's in must. We couldn't see the signs though, because apart from his behavior, which I did notice, but he smells like he's in must or coming into must. Oh, he's having a marvelous dust bath. I know he's behind the vehicle, but if I turn the vehicle on now, he is going to get cross with us. Now, I actually can't reposition right now. Oh, he's, thank you, boy. He is now covering us in a cloud of dust. There we go. Gerrit is moving the antenna out of the way so that he can give you a lovely view of this elephant. Sorry, Gerrit, I can't reposition now. Awesome. And now he is having had a mud and water bath, he's now coating himself in dust and dirt. And one of the big things I think about elephants, and the reason that they do this, is I actually think they really enjoy the feel of it. I think it gets to all of those niggling, itchy places. He's busy scratching his ankle there. Sending clouds of dust in our direction. Isn't this amazing? We're going to have a dust bath whether we want to or not at this point. He's throwing so much dust in our direction. Yummy. I'm now chewing it. Look at him loosening the dirt with his foot. And, oh, look at that. That was an impressive amount. He's going to change colour completely. Scraping of his front foot against the wall of the road. Oh, in the ear. You cannot tell me when you watch an elephant. Oh, yes, was that a little bit too much in the ear? Look at that. Oh, now the belly. And those itchy legs. Make sure you get everywhere. You cannot look at an elephant doing this and tell me that they are not having a fabulous time. He's just loving life right now. Oh, that's so nice. And a big itchy scratch. Your ankle's very itchy, boy. Dust clouds flying everywhere. And this elephant is pretty much as content as could be. That being said, mister, don't think I don't know what you're thinking. I'm not intimidated and I'm not going anywhere. Oh, there we go. I'm afraid I lost communications there for a moment, but I seem to have got them back. Rebecca in Final Control has said perhaps this elephant has eczema. He certainly seems to be very itchy, doesn't he? Now, I actually don't know whether or not elephants can get eczema. I'm certain that they do get skin conditions. You can imagine they've got plenty of skin, plenty of wrinkles, plenty of places for things to flourish, lots and lots of folds in their skin. And he really is having a marvelous time. And his ankles really are very itchy. He seems to be focused on his ankles. You're just having a wonderful time, boy. Oof. Oof. Did you get your eye? Well, you did just blow an entire pile of sand right into your face. That can't have been comfortable. Watch the sensitive eyes. Luckily he's got long eyelashes to protect him. Isn't the dexterity of that trunk amazing? Look at the way he's digging and gathering up the trunks full of dirt. It's just so fascinating to watch. I wonder how much sand each of those throws is or equates to. What would we guess? About a cup?
A couple of shovels.
Perhaps, yeah, about 250, the equivalent of a cup, I feel, each trunk. Oh, look how sandy you've made everything. Yes, I know. Yes, you're very scary. You're very scary and full of nonsense. Please don't come and take it out on me. Shaking the dust off his head and off his body. I think you've got everywhere now, boy. I really do. See, I stand by what I said before. I think elephants love this. It's not just about parasites and protecting their skin. I think they like the feeling. Give that trunk a good clean. Oh, one last head shake. Oh, and now? Right. Get that last itchy spot on the ankle, I guess. And he's going to be leaving very clear tracks on the road. Thank you very much, mister. That was awesome. Might not have been a leopard sighting, but it was definitely worth returning back to Red Dam just to enjoy that moment with one of our most intelligent and definitely most relatable creatures. That was absolutely special. A real dust bath, a really thorough evening ablution that our elephant bull performed there. Bye-bye, mister. With your musty walk. When they go into a period of must, what I said there where I said I could smell it, it takes on a very hormonal smell, the elephant itself. It starts to secrete from its temporal glands, but obviously we couldn't see that there. It also starts to dribble urine. But I'm not sure that he had reached that stage yet, or he's coming out of must, so he's at that point, the in-between point. But either way, it does tend to make them a little bit more on edge, not necessarily more aggressive, but just often more determined to show just how big and strong they are. Well, I think our hippo is very grateful that that display did not go on any longer, or indeed that the elephant's temper did not get taken out on him. He's still quite happily content to hide out at Red Dam. However, our Red Dam might be a hiding hole for a leopard, a hippo, but it is not a hiding place for a leopard, and I think it's time for us to move on. And while we do that, let's go across to Brent and find out what his plans are for the rest of the evening.
We're going to go now scurry about in the little drainage systems around Djuma and Vuyatela, hoping for some little nocturnal critters like bush babies, or hopefully on quarantine, white-tailed mongoose. I actually saw one last night after drive. What else? Civet, genus, pangolin, aardvark. It's not quite dark enough for us to whip out the spotlight just yet, but we are getting closer. Now you might find some bush babies getting moving already. And how we'd spot them is see their silhouettes bouncing through the tree. Oh, hello. Oh, sorry, Andre. I was trying to roll into the gap. Oh, he's going to walk into the gap. Here we go. A pair of kudu, young male and an adult female. Hello, gorgeous. I love their ears. Constantly on alert. They're probably going to go now look for a nice spot to lie down for the evening, to ruminate. A lot of the grazers and browsers prefer to be as static as possible during the evening, so they might hear the approach of any potential predator. Another absolutely stunning day out here in the African bush. And there isn't very many better places in the world one could be right now than on safari. Now, we had those male leopard tracks. There's always a chance it might have ducked in and ducked out as it's got cooler this evening. So we will have a quick look through this northern area as we make our way towards the Galago pad. It's always incredible the different silhouettes you get from different trees, and I think this is a particularly nice one here on Djuma. It's a very big retired knobthorn tree, and you can see that lovely silhouette with the setting African sun behind it. Always good to just stop and listen for a few seconds at this time of the day. Oh, no noises just yet. We're going to sneak past the Djuma Dam Cam on the opposite bank as we head towards Galago Pad, one of my favourite bush baby hunting zones. Always a good chance of spotting one of those gorgeous little critters hopping around in that area. Hi, Roger. Roger is asking us about something we're probably not going to have to worry about for a month or two yet. And Roger would like to know, do we continue to drive in these open jeeps during heavy rain? Well, Roger, we try to stay out for as long as possible. We do have rain covers, they're made out of canvas, but they only work up to a point. If the rain is very, very heavy, we will dash for cover and we will not able to drive. And it's not because of our fear of getting wet, although we're not too fond of it. There's a lot of sensitive electrical equipment in these vehicles that is needed to be able to send you guys this picture to wherever you might be in the world. So when the rain gets heavy, we power down and head for home. Occasionally we might do a little segment, a little Q&A under a roof somewhere from undercover. It just depends on the circumstance. I hear a little owl calling. Let's see if we can find him. It could always be a naughty fork-tailed drongo mimicking him. And that's exactly what it is. See him there, Jean-Jacques? So there is a fork-tailed drongo mimicking a pearl-spotted owlet looking for a fight. Should we give him a fight? So fork-tailed drongos often mimic little owlets, looking for a scrap. So he gave it away. He went at the end, which is a very drongo call. So any owlet worth his salt will know not to mess with this or come to this call. Oh, quite excited. I thought we might find a little owlet. Alas, we get a fork-tailed drongo. Okay. Nearly dark enough now for me to reach into my bag of tricks for... Aha, there it is. For the spotlight. Okay. So we're going to head down towards Gallagher Pad. While we do that, let's go see what Jamie's been up to.
Well, Jamie and Gert nearly had a heart attack just a few moments ago. They were just sort of casually driving along, chatting about where on earth Sandile might be, and a man popped out of the bushes right next to us. And I think both of us got more of a fright than we should have. It was just the sheer unexpectedness of his arrival. It wasn't quite to the same extent as Brent's explosion out of the bushes that nearly caused James to crash the car a couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago at this point, but it was certainly nerve-wracking enough. It was just a gentleman who had gone to explore the trees on a drink stop to enjoy the sunset. It was quite the surprise, though. Not the nocturnal creature that I was expecting to try and find. And just by the way, an update on Tingana. He has been found on Shirley's, so just to the south and west of where we can go. He's on Shirley's property. Hopefully Tingana, the dominant male leopard, does decide to make a return to our Travos area at some point. It feels like it's been a really long time since we last saw him. He is absolutely magnificent for those of you who are new viewers. The dominant male leopard, and he might be, he really is one of the biggest male leopards I've ever seen. I know that Anderson is meant to be bigger, and I have never seen Anderson, but in terms of the males out here, Tingana, for this area, is the undisputed boss on this particular patch. I'm hoping at some point he decides to return back on his regular territorial patrols. And so as we head into the winter's evening, you've arrived at the perfect time to spot some of the lesser seen nocturnal creatures. I said this a few times, but I feel as though a porcupine is really long overdue in terms of animals I have yet to see since I started working in the Northern Sabi Sands. And I can't quite understand why it is, because it's not like they are not here. We see their tracks all the time, we see their quills all the time, but I cannot quite work out where they all are hiding. They wander about quarantine all the time, apparently their tracks are there, and yet we never ever see them. I can only conclude that they're quite skittish and that they run away as soon as they hear the sound of a vehicle. And South Africa's largest rodent. Now, we often get asked whether or not the different animals of the area come to recognize the voices of the different guides and whether they respond differently to us. But Scott has a different question, and it concerns the sounds of vehicles. And do I think that animals can recognize different size of vehicles, different shapes, different colors, and so on? Yes, absolutely. It's not I think, I know they can recognize different vehicles. And they do absolutely respond in different ways. I once worked in an area where there was an example of very bad guiding. I'm obviously not going to say where or when or whatever it was. An example of very bad guiding. And you could watch the elephants be perfectly relaxed with our vehicles and with certain types of vehicles. And then as soon as the vehicles that they associated with bad memories arrived on the scene, they immediately started behaving in a different manner and in a slightly more defensive and occasionally even aggressive manner. Absolutely, I know that the animals recognize. Animals that get fed, and by that I don't mean here in the Sabi Sands, because the animals here are completely wild, but animals that, even wild animals that are in a boma, and I've been fortunate enough to work as an example with cheetah before, that have been taken off farms because otherwise the farmer is going to remove them in other means that are definitely not ideal, and taken off farms and put in a boma or an enclosed area where they are left for a couple of months to get used to the area in case they go straight back to where they came from. It's to try and prevent that from happening. And during that time of their soft release period, they obviously have to be fed. You could watch the cheetah respond to the vehicle's sound that they associated with food versus the vehicles that they didn't. Animals absolutely do associate the different vehicle noises, colors, people attached to that. Now, while we carry on looking for nocturnal beasts to show you, Brent has got some truly African silhouettes.
Well, we're looking at the silhouette, but that's not what we're doing here. Now, I've challenged Jean-Ray to film a bat. Of course, as soon as we've done this, the bats have decided, there's one, Jean-Ray. Oh, you missed it. Oh, there you go. Nice. There we go. You got to keep the cameraman on their toes. Oh, that was a good turn. Now, I'll forgive you for not following it through that turn. Although next time, Jean-Ray, you must read their behavior, please.
I thought it was just too dark down there.
No, but he turned around and went back.
No, he dipped.
No, he turned around. I just swung flat past.
No, we should do an action replay. He dipped.
No, he definitely went back.
No,
he definitely turned back.
He dipped.
Jean-Ray,
I think
you just weren't fast enough to follow him.
He dipped.
Oh, what about that one, Jean-Ray? Oh, he's right here. There he is. Oh. Well, that was a difficult one. Okay, well, anyway, there's a bit of fun for the cameraman and presenter. It is probably one of the most difficult things out here in the African bush to film. Bats. And but we thought we'd give it a try. We just passed Galago Pan. Not much happening this side. I can smell and hear some dugger boys in the bush, but that's all so far. So here's my little bush baby alley that I like to use. So let's hope there's one around today. Really dusty at the moment, which creates these incredible skies for us, and the sunlight reflecting off the dust. Something there could be a little darker, could be something a bit more interesting. I'm going to move around to the other side of this block here. Now, Susie says, well done, Jean-Ray, I love bats. Bats are very cool, Susie. They look like those little free-tail bats, little insectivorous bats. It is what I thought it was. It's a bit far, but it's a whole family of bush babies. Right in the center. So it's a bit far for this camera. There we go, you can see them there. Whoop! Where are you off to, mister? Chop. So there were two there. I saw about 4 or 5 sets of eyes. It's good to know your bush baby haunts when you're hunting for bush babies. I was hoping they would be a little bit closer to the road by now, but nonetheless, nice to see them hopping about. Where's the next big jump to? Oh, looks like going back. Oh. Oh, there we go. Incredibly agile little primate. The smallest primate we get in the Sabi Sands. Whoa, that was a big... Oh, oh, there he is, still there. Oopsie, sorry, that was my fault. Oh, and back again. Oh, and gone. Oh, no, there. Now gone. Nice, that was very nice. Lovely to see the little bush babies. And nice to know my bush baby haunts are still operational. And all of us will have our own sort of favorite spots to look for certain things. And when it comes to this time of the evening, this is one of my favorite little areas for bush babies. Now, my favorite area for white-tailed mongoose and civet, I'm going to check next. So while I make my way towards there, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
While Brent has been visiting his favourite areas, I have been visiting mine, the drainage lines around Zoe's Road and Philemon's Cut Line, because I see civet tracks here all the time. I was hoping perhaps we might bump into one of them at the very least. I was just thinking it's a really nice idea for Brent to call that particular road Bush Baby Alley, or whatever it was he called it, because it fits so perfectly. The road that he was on doesn't really have a name. It's just the shortcut of the Gallagher shortcut, which is a terrible name. I think perhaps it should be renamed Bush Baby Alley. And it works perfectly because, of course, the name Galago is the formal name for a bush baby. So it works perfectly. I think we should suggest that as a renaming possibility. Alright, let us see what the drainage line of Philemon's cut line has in store for us. Perhaps if there's any sign of our civet, or possibly the genet that lives around here as well. And spotting genets is a little bit trickier than most of our other nocturnal creatures, just because they are so incredibly tiny. It's like spotting a mongoose in the dark. Don't believe it. Fred's got another bush baby.
Oh. Here we go. Now, it's another bush baby, this one much closer to us. Now, in an acacia gerardi or red thorn. Now, this is another one of my favorite bush baby spots. And it's because they come and keep gum farms open. So they chew on this acacia to make it produce gum, and it's one of their favorite foods, and especially in winter when there's not a lot of insect activity around. They rely quite heavily on gum and leaves. Hello, fluff ball.
Try to lower the spot. No, it's not. Thank you.
And do that.
Then I'll do that. Yeah.
Perfect. Lovely. She's still checking around for any potential little insects that might be able to catch. Trying to see. Do you think if we go forward or back, we'll get a better view, Jean-André? Or do you think we're in the heat?
I think it's pretty good. I mean, closer with this camera, but otherwise it's pretty good.
Right, this is the spot. We'll hop down to that little fork below him. Give us a better view. Now, using those massive ears, and see how the ears are sweeping and the massive eyes, so incredibly good hearing and sight. A little bit of cleaning. Where you're off to next? Well, first, before going anywhere, time for a bit of preening and cleaning. Heidi's wondering, how long is a bush baby's tail? These species, probably about 7 or 8 centimeters, Heidi, not too long. Just remember, their whole body is about that length as well. They're very, very small. And this particular bush baby is the South African bush baby, or South African Galago. And he's giving himself a thorough cleaning at the moment. Now, they live in nests. Sometimes the nests can be hollows in trees, or most of the time they are. And they'll actually line those nests with fresh leaves regularly. And they live in little family groups.
Should we try roll forward?
Jean-André wants to try and roll forward slightly. Are we moving?
No.
No. I thought we were on enough of a slope.
No.
No. Make back is back or where we were. No.
No.
I think actually the trick is not back, not forward, but a little closer.
Yeah, closer would be good.
There we go. How's that, Chandra? He's right in that V.
Bit more.
Oh, sorry, there's a bump there. There we go. Very relaxed bush baby, this one. You can see those magnificently large eyes. So apparently we're right at the end of the sunset safari.